This is English Shorthand Dictation number 165 and the dictation speed is 140 words per minute. Ready? Start. Honorable Speaker, Sir, I do not know how many members of this House will agree with me in what I am saying, but I hold firmly to the view that the governments in India, no matter what the province is, will never do any good if they confine their attention to what in European countries are merely called social services. I do maintain, and I state it emphatically, that one of the principal duties of this government must be to tackle the problem of poverty. The government must see that they do adopt ways and means whereby the national income of this province rises to some substantial level, whereby the majority of the people can live in amenities which rightly belong to all modern and civilized men. The system of social services which has so far prevailed in European countries, whereby the government gives what are called doles or unemployment benefits, maternity benefits, and so on, presupposes that a majority of the people are above the line of poverty, and that it is only those few who, either by the vagaries of the economic system or by any misfortune befalling them, fall below that line of poverty, that assistance from the government. It is therefore perfectly possible, perfectly justifiable for European governments not to bother with problems of general economic upliftment of the people as a whole. But the problems with which we are faced in this country are of a totally different character. I have no hesitation in saying, and I do not suppose there is anybody in this house who would quarrel with me if I state it, that we are all a nation of beggars and coolies. That is the description which one can give of all this mass of people. Therefore, no government worthy of its name can sit silent and not take account of this grave problem. Now, sir, having regard to the budget proposals which we have before us, is there anything to indicate that this government is aware of this problem, that it does take cognizance of the fact that one supreme aim must be to see that the national income of this country rises? I do not see anything. There seems to be one idea which is prevalent all over and which I really want to examine at this stage. The view is held by all that a large part of the poverty of the agriculturists arises out of what is called the heavy burden of land revenue. Therefore, the view is held that all that needs to be done in order that the people's income may increase would be to reduce that burden of land revenue. I take the liberty of saying that nothing can be more fallacious than this view. That does not mean that I am opposed to the reduction of the land revenue. I will insist upon it, because I say that this government has really no right to take what are called the profits of agriculture as distinguished from mere rent for the use of land. But let me examine for the moment the idea that seems to be prevailing and the idea on which this government seems to be proceeding, namely, all that needs to be done for the relief of poverty of the general mass of people is to remit the land revenue. Let us examine and see what relief can be afforded by this process. The total land revenue which we collect is about rupees 3 crores, and the total population of this province is something like 2 crores. Now, assuming for the sake of argument that this government was generous enough and could afford to remit the whole of the land revenue, namely rupees 3 crores, let us distribute this precious sum of rupees 3 crores over the 2 crores of the population. Now, on a rough calculation, I find that the total addition to the income of one individual under these circumstances would be around rupees 1.5. Now, I want to ask whether anybody would seriously contend that an addition of rupees 1.5, which would be the result of the remission of the whole of the land revenue, would increase our economic welfare in such a way that the problem of poverty would be abolished. The problem needs different remedies. I do not want to go into that now. I have probably wearied the House enough. But I do want to say that this is something which this government does not seem to be aware of. And I do say that a government which is not cognizant of this problem, a government which does not have the ways and the means of solving this problem, can bring no relief, can be a source of no happiness to the people of this province. Therefore, I will say in conclusion that this is a budget which is a most disappointing budget, a budget which is designed to relieve the rich and to starve the millions. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is now the third budget which the Honorable Finance Minister has submitted to this House. I think it would not be an exaggeration to say that the first two budgets which he submitted to this House were not of a very satisfactory character. Probably there were sufficient excuses for the unsatisfactory character of the first two budgets. The first budget that was submitted by him was not his budget. It was probably the budget prepared by the interim ministry, and undoubtedly the finance minister could not be held responsible for whatever blemishes the first budget contained. The second budget had the excuse of having been made in a hurry, without the government having had sufficient time to prepare its plans and to digest the whole thing. But I am sure none of these excuses or extenuations could apply to the present budget which has been presented to us. It must be said that this is a budget which has been prepared after mature consideration. It undoubtedly embodies in it the full plan which the ministry has with regard to the taxation and with regard to the proposals of expenditure, which from their point of view are matters of urgency. I think that this budget needs to be more specifically scrutinized. Everyone is aware that this budget has been a budget which has caused a great deal of agitation. Those who were expectant have been disappointed, and those who have been hit have called this budget a revolutionary budget. Speaking for myself, when I refer to the revenue side of the budget as well as its expenditure side, my own view is that the proper description of this budget would be that on the revenue side it is a reckless budget, and on the expenditure side it is a senseless budget. This is of course no occasion to discuss the merits and demerits of the proposals which have been embodied in the finance bill, which is a part of this budget. The detailed criticism of those proposals must wait till the finance bill is presented to this House for consideration. However, it would not be unwise to say in a general way what I think of the proposals of taxation which have been embodied by the minister in the finance bill. There are 6 different proposals in the finance bill. First of all, the bill proposes to continue for a year more the additions made to the stamp duties and the court fees sanctioned by the Bombay Finance Act. Secondly, it increases the duty on the consumption of electricity. Thirdly, it increases the stamp duties in certain cities and urban areas on conveyances of immovable property. Fourthly, it levies a tax on leases of immovable property. Fifthly, it imposes a tax of 10% on the annual letting value of buildings in Bombay, Bombay Suburban District, and Ahmedabad City. Sixthly, it imposes a sales tax not exceeding 6% on 3 times, namely motor lubricants, manufactured cloth, and silk yarn. As I said, I do not propose to go into the details of these proposals of taxation. All that I am going to do now is to offer in a summary way certain criticisms which occur to me on general principles. Now, with regard to the continuation of stamp and court fees, I would like to remind the Honorable Finance Minister that this was a tax which has always been objected to by congressmen in the old Legislative Council.